So now we'll discuss the power and function of president, right? Chaliye. So let's see power and function of president. Power and function of president. So under the power and function of presidents, so it has been given this, there are 7 powers which has been assigned in the constitutions to the president. So first we will see the powers which has been given to president. So first power is executive power. Executive power of president. Second is legislative power. Third is financial power. Fourth, emergency power. Fifth, judicial power. Sixth is diplomatic power. Diplomatic power. And the last, that is 7th, is a military power. Military power. So these are the power of a president, or president functions, the whatever the functions has been given to president under constitutions is deliberate under this heading. So we have to discuss each of these power and functions of president under each of the separate headings. So from here we will discuss the separate headings of the separate power and functions of president, what he do under the executive power, what we mean when we say that what are the executive power and functions of president. So what duty he performs under executive, what are his legislative power, what are the functions with respect to the legislative he has to perform, which has been assured by the constitutions. Then financial, what are the financial power, what are the emergency power, judicial power, do any president has a judicial power or not? If yes, then what comes under the judicial power of parliament? Similarly, then military and diplomatic power. So we will start with the executive power of president. So let's start discussing executive power of president. Executive power. So executive power of president says that Article 53 says that the executive power of the union shall be vested in the president. So 53 says that the executive power of union shall be vested in the president. So what does this mean? So what we can say when we talks about the executive power? So it has a 2 features or 2 dimensions under this, or Article 53 talks about. The first says that under the 53 says that the power of carrying of a businesses of the government is been defined or comes under the executive power of president. So first we can say that is that power of carrying of business of the government. Business of government falls under the executive power of president. It means that how the government will functions, what are the businesses, what are the plans and policies, how they will be, the government will functions is been decided, has been taken in the name, and it will be done by the president. Clear? Then the next says, so next comes under the administrative affair of administrative affairs of the state, right? So the all the administrative affairs, as we know that president is a part of executive, it is an executions we have seen. So the administration is also been comes under the executive power of presidents. Clear? So this is article 353 talks about. So under executive power, it has two more power which comes under the executive, or the president perform functions under executive powers. One is known as an appointing power and the another is known as an removal power of president, right? So now we'll see the, so under executive power, president perform two more functions. President perform two more functions. One is appointing power, and the second is removal power. Right? So we will see that which authority has been appointed by the president under the exercising of an executive power, right? So the president appoints the prime minister and other ministers on the advice of prime minister. So the prime minister is appointed by the president, and the prime ministers will hand over the list of the ministers who will be name of the members who will be appointed as a ministers, and that ministers will be appointed by the president, right? Now this, if we have just seen the violation of constitutions or the ground on which the president has been impeached from his office. So this advice tendered by the prime ministers in appointment of a ministers to the president, if and in this advice, if president make any changes, whether if suppose that the prime minister has assured him X number of members to be appointed as a minister to president, but out of the X member, the president says that this A and B shall not be appointed as a ministers. Instead of A and B, I will appoint 1 and 2 as a ministers. So if these changes were done by the president in the list of members who's been appointed as a ministers given by the prime ministers, will amount to the violation of constitutions. Is this clear? So this is, from here we can understand what provisions has been considered as an violation of constitutions. Clear? Then second authority which has been appointed by the president is Attorney General of India. Then Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Then Governor of a states, judges of a judges of a Supreme Court, and High Court, including Chief Justice. Including Chief Justice. It's clear? Then after judges, he will be appointing the Finance Commission, then Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioner. Other election commissioner, then chairman and members of chairman and members of UPSC, Union Public Service Commissions, and State Public Service Commissions, Joint Public Service Commissions, Joint Public Service Commission. Then special officer for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, special officer for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Then commission to report on administration of scheduled area, commission to report on the administration of scheduled area, then commission to investigate conditions of backward classes, commission to investigate the condition of backward classes, right? Commission of official language, commission on official language, and special officer for linguistic minority, and special officer for linguistic minorities. So these are the dignitaries which has been appointed by the President under exercising the appointing power under executive functions of presidents, right? So these dignitaries are been appointed by the presidents. And now we will see the removal power of the presidents, which again comes under the executive function of president. So the removal power. So let's see the removal power. A removal power. So the ministers governors of state, Attorney General of India, these three dignitaries comes under the pleasure of president, right? Then judges were also removed. Judges of Supreme Court and High Courts were also removed by the President after Parliament passed the removal motions, right? Then chairman of UPSC and members of UPSCs were removed by the President. It's clear? So these are the certain dignitaries which has been removed by President, right? Then we can say that the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioner were also removed by the President. So this removal and appointing power comes under the executive power of President. Is this clear? So this is the first power of presidents which we have been discussing here. So by this we come to an end of the first, that is an executive power of President. Is clear? Okay, I hope this executive power is clear. Now we will see the next power, that is a legislative power of President. So let's start discussing the next power of the President, that is legislative power. So next is legislative power of President. So legislative power means the power of legislations. As we all know that the President is a part of Parliament. It is not a member of Parliament. The Parliament of India comprises President. If we see that Parliament of India so it comprises President, lower house, which is also known as House of the People or Lok Sabha, and the upper house or Council of State or Rajya Sabha. So being a part of a parliament, so the constitution has also provided an legislative power to the President. Legislative power related to the legislations, where he can legislate, where the bill is been passed by both the houses, so it cannot become an act unless and until the President gave his assent to the bill. So it gave an important role to the President related to legislations. And under executive we have seen how it will be function as an executive. So the President is functioning as an executive also, and it is also functioning as an legislation. He has also certain power related to legislations matter. Clear? So now we will see the legislative power of the President. So if he talks about the legislative power, so he has a power to summon the house. Summon the both houses of Parliament. Right? So under what conditions he can summon the house? So it says that if the President or if the Parliament, both houses of Parliament, the sitting of the Parliament is when a gap between the two sitting of a Parliament is more than 6 months, then President can summon, summon means call to office. Summon is generally, a literal meaning is to call for an office. So call for a sitting. So whenever the president is of a view that the gap between the two session of a parliament is going to be more than 6 months, then the parliament can summon the house for a sitting or for the session of the house. It's clear? So when the gap between the two session of parliament is more than 6 months, so president can summon the house. President can summon the house for the session. So this is summoning of the house, right? The next power under the legislative is prorogation. So next is prorogation, right? Now prorogation means the ending of whole the session without dissolving the lower house. It means whenever the president is of a view, and this actions of the president, neither of the actions of the president, whether for the executive or legislative actions or power, is done by the president on his discretionary, right? So the discretionary means acting on his own without on anyone's aid and advice. So the constitution does not allow the parliament to act on his own, but rather it says that the president, all this power and functions, whether the executive, legislature or financial power, military power or any of these power, he has to perform only on the aid and advice of the ministers subordinate to him or the office subordinate to him. So if the president is appointing any authority or any offices like chairman to the UPSC or judges to the court, either to Supreme Court or High Court, so the president is acting on the advice of his minister subordinate to him. Clear? So the prorogation means the ending of a whole sessions without dissolving the life of the Lok Sabha. Suppose that right now the budget session is in process. So if the president issue the prorogations, it means the whole budget session will be end, but the life of the Lok Sabha will not be dissolved, will not be end. So but in next sessions the house will meet only on if the president issue summon. So after issuing a prorogations, the president can only the president issue a summon the both houses. Is this clear? So prorogation means ending the life, or we can say that suspending the session of the parliament, without dissolving the lower house. And once the prorogation is been used by the president, so only president after prorogation of house can summon the parliament. It's clear? So this is another power of president under legislative, that is a prorogating of a house, right? So hope the prorogations provision is clear, where the ending or suspending the whole sessions without dissolving or without ending the life of an Lok Sabha. Clear? Now next power is dissolution, dissolving power. So next is dissolution. Dissolution power of the dissolution of lower house or Lok Sabha, right? So dissolution means ending the life of, dissolution's literal meaning ending the life of the lower house. It's clear? Now once the house has been dissolved, it cannot be revoked. So once the house is dissolved, dissolution cannot be revoked. Dissolution cannot be revoked. Clear? It means after dissolutions, the life of the Lok Sabha will come to an end, and there will be an election for the Lok Sabha, and the Lok Sabha will be constituted only after the election, after the general elections to the Lok Sabha. Clear? So after dissolution, the country go for the general election. Elections. It's clear? Now under what conditions the president can dissolve the house? Under what conditions? So it says, the constitution says that the council of ministers, heading prime ministers, are collectively responsible to the lower house. Article 75. It means that the council of ministers will remain in office or remain in government as long as they enjoy the majority or the confidence of the house. Once they lose the confidence of the house, and losing a confidence of the house means losing a majority in the house, right? So as we all know that parliamentary, one of the features of the parliamentary form of government is majoritarian government. It means the party which secure a majority of the seats in parliament will form a government, right? So if it loses its majority, losing its the confidence of the house. So once the council of ministers loses the confidence of the house or majority of the house, so after that the president will call for the dissolutions. Clear? It's clear? So now, dissolutions will be done when council of ministers lose the confidence of the Lok Sabha. And losing confidence means losing majority in the house. Losing majority in the